Over the years, shoe culture has exploded. Shoe designs are crazier and more eye-catching than ever, and they can do way more than shoes ever could because of one thing: plastic. We have shoes that have literally made athletes faster, shoes that are lighter than your iPhone, and shoes that would probably kill a medieval peasant on sight. Shoes today are impressive and objectively better in some ways than our pre-plastic versions, but they lack something fundamental to the shoes of the past. Fashionable shoes of the past could last decades, and shoes today barely last to the next fashion trend. All right, so a disclaimer off the top. Of course, we are not saying the shoes today are just worse generally. In many ways, you could actually argue the opposite. Sneaker technology has evolved by leaps and bounds, creating shoes that defy what we think shoes should be able to do. And they've created a whole fashion category of infamously cool designs that I don't understand because I'm a dad. All I know is that shoes today are the only thing in 2025 that feels like what 2025 should have been according to those old movies. But something weird is going on. These new materials and techniques have brought the cost of shoe production down to previously unthinkable levels. But shoes are still kind of an expensive purchase for most people, and the costs keep going up. We have shoes that cushion and protect our feet, we have shoes that let you feel the earth below you, but we also have a whole slew of problems due to improper footwear. We have the best shoe technology that humanity has ever seen, but according to one study, we're replacing our shoes every 6 months to a year. Now, this video was actually inspired by this TikTok.
I'm honestly kind of shocked. When did we stop wearing real shoes and just start wearing styrofoam that's stuck together with hot glue squeezed out of all the cracks?
In this video, he talks about how all of these shoes in this particular store are made of foam, and he's clearly not the only person who has realized this. This video has over 6.6 million views. But in the comments, a lot of people are recommending other shoes that don't have this same problem. So of course, as always, there is a spectrum here, right? We have like the cheapest of the cheap, terrible shoes that are probably stuck together in the most heinous way possible, all the way up to the shoes that are probably pretty good. But regardless of style or price tag, one thing that all of these shoe advancements have not done is made shoes more durable. Okay, now I've been wanting to make this video for a while because I truly think that not enough people understand that shoes today are built in such a way that they fall apart faster. And we know this because we designed shoes in the past that didn't do that. Shoes in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s were all built with a functional and repairable lifetime in mind. These were not only beautiful shoes, but footwear centered around craftsmanship and durability, because in many cases, these shoes were an investment in the wearer's future. These shoes were most likely made of leather, rubber, and stitched together with some kind of heavy thread. These were shoes that in many cases would be a person's only pair of shoes. So when they started wearing out, they would be repaired. And most people don't even understand that you can do that anymore. And so I got mine repaired last week. So this is the cobbler shop next to my apartment, and not all cobbler shops are created equal, but they're all usually pretty interesting. This is Arcadia Shoe Repair, and it's run by a local guy named Chim and his family, and they're awesome. Chim.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Levi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, man.
Good. Jim Chai, it's nice to meet you.
Hello, Jim. I'm Guy. Hildebrand.
Guy.
Yeah.
I'm Nancy.
Nancy, my wife.
We're just replacing that heel on
Yeah,
there.
the heel, that's it, yeah.
Now, Chim and his family have been running this cobbler shop for quite a while. How long have you been here?
Oh, 15, 16 now, I guess, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Years, of course, not days, but years.
Yeah. But the sad reality is that Chim is a dying breed. The craft has been on the decline for decades. A century ago, shoe repair shops numbered over 100,000 in the US, and today there are less than 4,000. And this new foam shoe technology is the problem. Today, there are a million different designs and styles of shoes that are all individually completely different from each other. The colors and the shapes and the technicality of their construction makes repair almost impossible in some cases. And the frustrating part is because we got too good at making shoes out of plastic. Modern running shoes started during the fitness boom of the 1960s and the 70s, and this was just the perfect storm. You had the rise of rubber technology, leisure time, and sports culture. So there was a growing demand from athletes and shoe designers for more technical footwear. But what really launched us into this new era was, of course, plastic. And this is the really frustrating thing about plastic, because it's actually awesome. Like, we can do all kinds of stuff with plastic that we just can't do with anything else. And it has completely revolutionized what we do with shoes. But it all started with Nike's Cortez sneaker, which was the first step towards this new plastic reality. And they said that this shoe would revolutionize the running experience. They added a foam layer that they called Phylon, which was the first version of the foam shoe technology that you see in pretty much every single pair of sneakers on the market today. A lot of shoes now are partly, or in many cases, completely made of plastic and plastic-like materials. And because of how flexible and lightweight these new composites can be, these shoes are stitched and glued and molded together in increasingly complicated ways. That foamy midsole is often fused to the other parts of the shoe in such a way that they basically can't be separated without destroying the shoe entirely. And this wouldn't be an issue, maybe, if those soles were really hard wearing, but they are notoriously the opposite. The foam is designed to compress and then bounce back so that it can be as comfortable as possible. But the foam loses its springiness over time. I'm sure you've seen people walking around with their shoes kind of sagging to the outside or the inside, depending on how they walk. Once this foam loses its springy, cushiony kind of quality, those air pockets have broken down and can never be restored. Take a look at this pair of Allbirds that I got about 2 years ago. They have sort of warped in that time. And while these are actually their running shoes, so they are a lot more sturdy and robust in comparison to their normal lineups, their classic runners were notoriously spongy. Now, I would actually say that this is an example of a pretty decent quality shoe, actually. Allbirds are, I would say, on the higher end of the shoe category that we're talking about, but the bar has just gotten lower and lower. And this is the problem. We have used arguably the most impressive and powerful material known to humans today to create arguably the worst shoes that we've ever worn. Take the Nike Roshe Run, for example. The original Roshe Run was introduced back in 2012 as an affordable option in the runner category, supposedly influenced by Zen Buddhism for some reason. The true selling point of this shoe, though, was the fact that it didn't require a mold, which made it extremely cheap to produce. These things retailed for about $70. Now, if you look at them, they're basically a sock with a foam bottom, but because they were so inexpensive, they were very popular. And what does this shoe design remind you of? Does it remind you of these Allbirds? What about these Allbirds? What about these Vessis? Or these? Or any of these shoes? That's because the Roshes sparked an entire movement of cheap foam sock-like running shoes that were more meant for casual wear than athleticism. And look, I'm not saying that these old boots are just like the perfect piece of footwear for everyone in every circumstance, right? Or that the materials don't have any issues. Of course, if you are a runner, you should not go out running in a pair of leather boots. But when it comes to casual footwear today, it feels like we've lost something along the way. In a culture that increasingly values new over old, encouraging repair over replacement is very countercultural. Repairing anything today is pretty much the most punk thing that you can do. All right, so you might be able to see that there's this little wedge that Chim put into the heel of my boot where it had worn out previously. Not only did this repair make sure that these boots stayed on my feet longer, but it's also a really interesting insight into what's going on with my body. This is a repair that I have done on basically all of my shoes at one time or another. And it means that I strike with my heel when I walk, which is not good for your body in a whole bunch of ways that we don't have time for in this video. And the thing is, a pair of cheap throwaway sneakers doesn't invite this kind of relationship. Your shoes wear out in some kind of way and you just toss them out and buy a new pair. But a repairable and long-lasting pair of shoes makes you think, wait, why the hell do I have to keep repairing the heels of my shoes all the time? And even if your Roshe runs could be repaired, which may or may not be possible with the skill and effort of some sort of professional, would it even be worth it? This boot repair cost me $55 with taxes, and that might not be worth it if your shoes that you bought in the first place were only 70 bucks. And yes, I'm sure a lot of you are probably going to say that I should just learn how to walk properly and then I wouldn't have to go to a cobbler at all. But let's be honest, most people are not going to do that. And so they're going to be taking their boots to Chim instead. And I know that sometimes it's really doom and gloom when we talk about these kinds of things because it seems like our culture is just barreling in the wrong direction. But here's the thing, Chim and his family are busy as hell. His son-in-law actually left his previous job as a welder to work for the shop. And I know that the numbers aren't in favor of the cobbler industry, but I've never been into a shoe repair place that wasn't completely slammed with people. So maybe things are shifting. People are seeking the real thing more and more nowadays. As the internet has fractured us apart and made our real life experiences more segmented from each other, I think more and more people are going to long for the opposite, a real, true experience with other people. And maybe that means taking your old shoes to a cobbler to get them repaired. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you like the kind of content that we're putting out, make sure that you subscribe so you see a new episode every single week. And if you want to support Chim and you live in Canada, we will leave a link to their website down in the description below.